A grim milestone is approaching in Eastern Europe. 1 year since the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Thousands of people have died. Millions of people have fled their homes. Cities have been reduced to rubble, and still there is no end in sight. On February 24, 2022, Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered the attack on Ukraine. Putin claimed the offense was to protect ethnic Russians and prevent NATO membership. However, Ukraine called the attack illegal because of its independent and democratic status. After a year of brutal fighting, destruction, the Ukrainian people remain determined to drive out the Russian occupancies and believes that it will succeed. President Biden made his first trip to the war-torn country today since the invasion, renewing his pledge of U.S. support.
Freedom is priceless. It's worth fighting for.
With Russia's war in Ukraine raging on, President Biden made a surprise trip to Kiev and met with the Ukrainian president.
Russia's aim was to wipe Ukraine off the map. Putin's war of conquest is failing.
The president spent about 6 hours in Ukraine's capital, where he marked the end of the first year of the conflict.
1 year later, Kyiv stands, and Ukraine stands. Democracy stands.
U.S. officials say Russia was notified of the trip some hours before the president made the decision to go on Friday, but the movements of the American president were kept secret prior to his arrival. During his news conference in Kiev, the president announced an additional military aid package for Ukraine of around $500 million.
That announcement includes artillery ammunition for HIMARS and howitzers, more javelins, anti-armor systems, air surveillance radars to help protect Ukrainian people.
Over the weekend, Vice President Harris told a security conference Russia has committed crimes against humanity in Ukraine.
To all those who have perpetrated these crimes, you will be held to account.
The declaration could lead to possible war crime charges against Russian officials. Well, the U.S. is supporting Ukraine in many different ways. Troops were deployed to Poland and Germany to help with training and arms delivery. Several humanitarian organizations like Samaritan's Purse, right here from North Carolina, have spearheaded massive relief efforts. That is not all, though. Many states are allowing refugees to escape the chaos by seeking safety in America. More than 150,000 Ukrainian refugees were given permission to travel to the U.S. Now, tens of thousands of them came through a private sponsorship program called Uniting for Ukraine. It was set up by the U.S. government, bypassing the traditional refugee system. It enlists everyday Americans and groups to directly finance the resettlement.
This program will be fast, it will be streamlined, and will ensure the United States honors its commitment to go to the people of Ukraine and need not go through our southern border.
Well, North Carolina took in nearly 3,000 Ukrainian refugees last year. More than 78 of them are in Guilford County. And while family members or private groups paid for the refugees to come here, folks from the North Carolina African Services Coalition says there are other helps for refugees as well.
There are a lot of services which they are eligible for, just like every refugees. So the difference between the refugees and Ukrainian or the Afghan police and Ukrainian is the Ukrainians cannot be eligible for those initial services, but they are eligible for those services beyond the 3 months period that we provide for other refugees.
And these are the kinds of services we're talking about: employment help, job training, supplemental security income, application access, Medicaid, supplemental nutrition assistance, school enrollment, ASL classes, mental health care, youth services, and a micro enterprise program for people who want to start their own businesses.
It is, a great resource for them to go and get started with. That's why we're just getting this information out there. Whoever knows, the Ukrainian out there, they can send them to our way. We are providing this service for them. And we have staff member, case managers that will be assigned to them, and so that they can enroll them to the program and able to work with them to situate them, on their transition.
Now, while these programs remain strong in the U.S., support among the American public appears to be softening. According to the Associated Press, Center for Public Affairs Research, 48% say they favor the U.S. providing weapons to Ukraine, with 29% opposed, 22% indifferent. These totals are significantly down compared to May of last year, when 60% of people were in favor of sending Ukraine weapons. So far, the United States has provided more than $50.9 billion in aid to Ukraine, but they're not the only ones that are standing firm with the country. The United Kingdom is the third biggest financial supporter of Ukraine behind the EU. It has contributed $7.5 billion, including the delivery of weapons and the training of troops. Well, today, Britain's King Charles visited Ukrainian soldiers undergoing military training in southern England. The king was heard asking about the soldiers' families as they were undergoing that training by British and international soldiers. You know, perhaps one of the most important things to keep in mind as the war continues in Ukraine, there are real people, families that are scared, that are worried, that are tired, that are depleted behind all of this political fallout. Last year, the Fred Astaire Dance Studio in Greensboro took in 15 Ukrainian families. Today, we learned that all 15 of them are still living in the area. We spoke to them last year, shortly after they arrived.
We try to leave our country after 2 weeks of beginning. We are in safety here. We understand that this is a good place for our children to not hear any explosion. We are lucky to have the opportunity to be here.
We're talking about real people behind all the politics. Our thoughts are certainly with everyone impacted by the war in Ukraine.